2 body shots and 1 headshot in, he realized this ain't for me.
Most said to me, I'm going to win this fight, watch. And then he said, look, I'm having a panic attack and an anxiety attack.
Both of them were very, very uncomfortable. It's a difficult walk to make in your second fight.
Fred back. He seems to be showing off a lot. Can Fred get in there?
I don't know if I should give this away, but on the next card, I've let them know that if they want that fight, I'll facilitate it.
Welcome back, everybody, to Misfits News. We took a brief break during the Misfits 13 fight week, but we are back and ready to dive into all of the latest updates and the fallout from Misfits 13. I'm your host, Ben the Bane Davis. As always, joined by my partner in crime, BL. And before we get into today's episode, I have to ask, BL, how are you?
Very well, Ben. It was an exciting fight week. It was a pleasure to be a part of it. But do I need to ask, where were you? I missed you, my man. It was so long without you.
I know. I'm not sure if anyone had that same question. I was in Phuket, Thailand. I committed to a show way back in November, and unfortunately, dates coincided. You can see I'm on the road right now. I'm a busy boy, BL, and that leads to overlap.
So here's the agenda for you all today. We'll dive into the latest happenings of Misfits 13, explore the developments around Most Wanted, and plus, we got 2 exciting interviews with none other than FoxTheG and Mams Taylor.
The lightweight tournament. What were your thoughts on the matchups and overall competition? I thought these were kind of the high points of Misfits 13.
No, I absolutely agree with you there. I mean, the level of boxing was some of the highest level of boxing we have actually seen on Misfits to date. And I mean, I think there's a highlight reel that everyone's been talking about. I need to bring it up with you. Joey Knight. What a superstar and what a fighter he ends up being.
This guy is a fantastic boxer. Like, let's not get it twisted. He is a very good podcast host, a good content creator, but the guy's bread is buttered inside the boxing ring. And Baby Hulk, to his credit, came in here, and I think that there were some interesting factors that he had on his side. Being a shorter statured individual, that almost gave Joey Knight problems because he's not used to fighting someone smaller than him. So I was curious about that, and I was curious about the toughness, the durability. Remember, during this fight camp, Baby Hulk literally took an MMA fight and won. So he has had an interesting lead up to it, but just wasn't enough. JK gets him out of there. But like you mentioned, very high level of boxing between Lil Cray Cray and Yuddy Gang. Unfortunately, obviously, there was a bit of a pause there, and that bout leads to a no contest. But Lil Cray Cray, the Southpaw sensation, lives up to what people had in mind for him.
Now, those two were having one of the fights of the night. I was so excited that Lil Cray Cray was performing extraordinarily well, and he was landing a lot of shots. However, this is where I tell you, I'm going to give you the exclusive access here.
Misfits News, breaking news right here.
So I was with Yuddy Gang's team, and they believe they were going back out there. Now, Yuddy Gang's coach, which we love him, he's an amazing person. He was telling me their game plan was actually to feel Yuddy Gang's power, and once they felt it, was to go harder on those later rounds. And they said that the power was not there. They were going to go out there, and if the fight continued, they were going to put the pressure on. Well, let's talk about one of the lower points then. The evacuation. Obviously, it was an absolute shame that they had to stop the fight there. I mean, I'd never seen this before happen in any event, not just crossover boxing, but any event. And it's a real shame because a lot of people put a lot of hard work to make this event happen. And unfortunately, it just made the event look, I mean, I don't know what words to really use there, Ben.
Yeah, it caused a lot of individuals to come out of the woodworks and take shots at Misfits and claim that, oh, Misfits needs to change, and what a terrible look for crossover and influencer boxing. And I'm not going to disagree, right? It was a tough night, but I wouldn't say it's Misfits' fault on some of these things. That is completely out of their hands, and whoever called in that, threat or caused that issue, shame on them. It was a really frustrating and shameful action by whoever that was, but the last thing I'm going to do is take shots at Misfits over it because it wasn't on them.
Well, I'm going to talk about a big fight, though, on the night. Taylor Holder, he put on a performance. The first round, I will be honest, I was a little bit worried for him. DWG Earth was landing some big shots. However, someone sat by ringside watching every movement, every step. Bryce Hall. What do you make of that fight?
I thought that DWG Earth did better than expected, right? I want to start off by giving some props to him. There was a lot of mystery. His content isn't very... You don't learn a lot about him. I was pleased to hear and see that he showed up and really gave it his all. But Taylor Holder, welcome back. And I gotta say, I would lean towards Bryce Hall in that fight. Obviously, Hall has got Knucklemania on his hands later in April, so a showdown with Taylor Holder is going to happen in the summer if it does at all. But Taylor Holder showed some good stuff, but some big weaknesses as well. Let's get to this main event. Most Wanted deciding not to come out. Now, he spoke with Fred Beck immediately afterwards and said it was the anxiety and the moment got to him. There were nerves. He was hyperventilating, couldn't walk out there. What did you make of this? I mean, obviously, you were boots on the ground. I didn't know if you got the chance to speak with him that night, but man, main event falls apart right before it happens.
We were in the same hotel as Most Wanted throughout the whole week. He had a different energy about him through that entire week. And that's not me trying to make excuses or trying to excuse what he did, because what he did wasn't right and it wasn't acceptable because it let a lot of people down. However, as I will say, and I will defend his corner slightly, throughout the whole fight week, he was super quiet and reserved. He wasn't his usual self. You know, he was weight cutting massively, and I saw him with a jug, not eating, and as I say, super silent. Now, when it came to fight night, when I first initially saw him, he did look okay and he was enjoying the camera and he seemed to have some energy. However, then as the night proceeded, a lot of people were saying that Most Wanted, and as weird as it sounds, he was just in the toilet, and a lot of that is going to be nerves. He just wasn't feeling himself. And then you have the bomb threat. I go into that changing room to get some content and he hasn't got his boots on. He hasn't got his shorts on. So I'm starting to get slightly worried as we're just in Fox's room and he's got his robe on. Now, when we go to Most Wanted's room, he doesn't look like he's walking out already. Now, when all of this is happening, FoxTheG is asking when's the fight happening. I then see Mams Taylor come in and start speaking to Most Wanted. Now, I had to cut the cameras there out of pure respect on the situation that was going on. But when you look at that as a whole, do I think Most Wanted was bribed? No. Do I think he bottled it on the night? I think that's our most likely response to that.
He made that walk before against a very dangerous opponent in Joey Knight. And he showed up against JK. He did better against Joey Knight than Baby Hulk did. I genuinely, want to give the guy some slack. I went at him, I dogged at him for a couple days. So, apologies to Most Wanted. Game's the game. You know how it's played. I think that on maybe a different night, Most Wanted would have shown up for this opportunity. Biel, if anyone was able to talk about what really happened behind the scenes, it's the man of the evening, Mr. Main Event himself, FoxTheG.
Well, I'm thrilled with the man, FoxTheG, the man that makes opponents not walk to the ring. How we doing, my friend? Main event.
Yeah, all good, man. A little bit disappointed, to be honest. Been feeling pretty flat after what happened last weekend, but can't complain too much. You got the W and we'll move on.
Well, let's talk about that. You just headlined. How does it feel now fight week is done, everything's settled? What are your initial thoughts after that?
Man, it's a good barrier to be broken. I really appreciate the opportunity, especially so early on in my career. They really gave me a gift in that main event, and I'll never forget that, and I appreciate it. Hopefully there's a lot more to come. I just wish I could have put on a better show for all the people watching at home.
What was going through your mind when everyone was starting to evacuate?
If I'm being completely honest, I was still thinking about murderation. I was still thinking about annihilating Most Wanted and Evil Hero. I didn't let this get into my head at all. They kept saying the fight's on, the fight's off, the fight's on, the fight's off. It was all background noise to us. It pissed me off, if I'm honest, Beal. I was fired up that day. I was like, all this is going wrong on my main event. I just started taking it out on Evil Hero. And I think 2 body shots and 1 headshot in, he realized this ain't for me.
Well, as you know, we actually caught the flight together. And I knew during that fight, the entire time you were just watching your fight on replay. What is your assessment of that performance?
I think I was sharp on the night. Definitely rushed it a little bit. I gave Evil the opportunity to give up. But overall, what can you do? You can only beat the man in front of you. I'm happy that I didn't have to show too much, to be completely honest. There's still so many mysteries, so many tricks up my sleeve for people to find out. So yeah, man.
Now, that night also showcased the lightweight tournament. We have seen it start to unfold. Who did you get excited from seeing that night?
Joey Knight. Joey Knight.
He's a talent.
Come on, man. Joey is a guy to look out for, man. He this time was really good. He got on the mic a little bit more. You saw a new side of Joey this week. There was that new, I'm sure he's always had it, but we've never seen it on Misfits. You saw that killer instinct come out a little bit. You saw him throw with a little bit more intent, get that KO. So yeah, man, I was very impressed with Joey Knight. Yeti and Cray, I'm assuming they're gonna run it in the future. That's, like I said, that fight is just as cursed as the whole event, bro. They tried to make the fight like 3 times and it just can't happen, even when they're in the ring.
So, there's many names that you just mentioned there. So who is your favorite to win it right now, having seen them now face each other?
We still got to see Waleed and Ace. We still got to see Taz and Argentinian kid. There's still a few other matchups that I'm waiting to see. But from what I've seen so far, I have to go Joey Knight. I have to go Joey Knight out of the fights we've seen. He looked good, bro.
I do need to talk about another performance which was quite shaky, that being Evil Hero. Do you think he quit early? Do you think he had more in him and he's decided to stop to take less punishment?
Oh, absolutely, bro. He was shitting it. He was terrified. I mean, you can see from the vlogs that you guys did, he was uncomfortable. We saw it the entire week. Both of them were very, very uncomfortable. And you can see on the MF The Zone Instagram account, during my walkout, I looked him in the eyes and I saw his glance back. I just realized, bro, I said it. I said, you're dead, bro. Because the way that Jay looked back versus the way that Eva looked back, that's all you really need to know.
Most Wanted did not make that walk. What's your perspective on that whole situation?
Listen, man, it's a difficult walk to make in your second fight. Mate, when it comes to fight night, I'm a scary guy, so I appreciate it. To me, it's a compliment. There was the thing in the past was with Lead as well, where most maybe could have stepped in, but he opted out. And I think it saying something about the crowd that time. I think maybe this time around, the main event, maybe he knew what I was intending to do. I think he just he freaked out, man, and I think it's unfortunate.
Well, let's talk about spars. You guys have previously sparred multiple times now. How did those spars go? Because obviously people wanted to see you on the main event. I want to know how it went behind the scenes.
Listen, man. It's a funny way that things go. Like, these first two fights have been oddly similar. Jay wore black and gold. Evil Hero wore black and gold. I wore black and gold for both fights. Stop fucking wearing black and gold if you want to fight me. The Most Wanted spars went a little bit differently than the Jay spar went. I mean, I don't really want to say too much about it because it's all done now. But mate, you can tell from fight night what probably happened in those spars, and you could probably imagine who was getting the better of each other in those spars.
Who do you see as your next opponent?
I've still got my eyes on Adam Saleh, man. I think maybe not next. Hopefully the one after. Who knows? Whenever it happens, it happens. But Adam Saleh is the most overhyped, overrated piece of shit in the lightweight division, and I cannot wait to go in there and smoke his boots, bro. We have a few specific things planned just for Adam Saleh's chin, bro. Even when I'm not fighting Adam, I'm thinking about, oh, bro, someday when this lands on Adam, he's fucked.
Well, a matchup myself and Ben are very interested in is obviously the fight with Warner Walton. Is that something that would interest you down the line?
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of overhyped and overrated, respect to the kid. I said respect to him after because I think me and him have a lot of similarities, except the fact that I don't let the stage fright get to me. He's 17. He's doing his thing on MVP. I'm 18. I'm doing my thing on Misfits. He's the kid over there. I'm the kid over here. He had a very deflated performance, if I'm being completely honest. And if I ever get given the opportunity to fight him, I would love to crack his head with some overhand rights, yeah.
The last name I'm going to throw at you. Fred Beck, he's back in the gym. He's throwing hands once again. Either I need to see a tag team or I need to see this matchup finally made.
Hey, I already said it, Bill. I don't be doing tag teams, bro. If you're ever going to see me and Fred's name together on a Misfits poster, it's going to be me versus him versus me, a fight to the death.
Now, I'll tell you something, Ben. There's a few points I want to cover with you that really piqued my interest. Now, the first one I want to talk with you is that sparring session with Most Wanted. He said it went the way that people wouldn't expect. Does this mean that Most Wanted was shook before he went into that fight?
I mean, the assumption is that Most Wanted got beat up bad, and that's obviously what played into some of the anxiety. But the reality is, like, let's say I was in Most Wanted shoes and I sparred someone and they really got the best of me and it was clear that there was a levels difference. Guess what I wouldn't do? I wouldn't sign to fight them in a main event. Yeah, I wouldn't sign the contract. I would tell Mams that hey, I've got an Achilles injury that I'm healing from.
Something's gone wrong.
Something's gone wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna be out for a couple months, man. Most Wanted clearly felt that he had something that he could bring to the table and some way to win, which is why he signed in the first place. So however the sparring match went, we'll never know unless there's footage or unless, you know, they really want to get specific about it, which they shouldn't. What happens behind closed doors should stay behind closed doors. But yeah, we'll never know.
Well, let's talk about a couple call outs he made that, again, really interested me. Adam Saleh and Warner Walton. Now, I think Adam Saleh is one of the perfect fights to make for Fox Next. There has been a beef there since the very start. I think the level is relatively even as well. What do you make of that matchup, Ben?
Yeah, Adam Saleh has done a lot more talking than fighting recently. I think that's an interesting matchup.
Well, I think if he does win that fight and he wins it again by emphatic KO, then Warner Walton is a real interesting matchup for me. Warner Walton, obviously a superstar at a very young age. FoxTheG, a Misfits prodigy, someone that has come up since the very start. Why wouldn't we make this fight?
The reason we wouldn't make this fight is because it's an even better fight further down the line. Let's give Warner some time. I know MVP and Jake Paul want to develop develop him, get him some wins. Let's get Juana some experience. That draw in his debut was something that kind of sucked the sails out of a lot of people. Let's get Juana Walton some wins. MVP should absolutely invest in his development. And down the line, Walton versus FoxTheG, MVP versus Misfits. I think that's a fantastic storyline. I like Juana Walton. I think he has so much potential. He's even younger than FoxTheG. So let's develop Juana Walton. I don't want to hear him versus FoxTheG for at least like another year and a half, 2 years.
Well, a lot of fans have been asking, where was the Misfits 14 announcement? Obviously, there were some hints and rumors of that being announced on Misfits 13, but obviously, after all the chaos and the havoc, let's save that one for a bit later. So when can we expect the next event to be revealed?
Let's hope soon, man. I hope as soon as possible, because we want to wash the taste of Misfits 13 out of our mouths. We want to kind of re-up and reset and just build some more momentum for 14. I would imagine, if I'm a betting man, I would assume that we're heading back across the pond to the UK. Maybe late April would make sense. I think that would be a fine time frame for us to build. Hopefully they've already been sending out contracts and getting people into fight camps, because that is like 3 or 4 weeks away. But sooner rather than later. I think that Misfits is at its best when there is an event that we're looking forward to. There's matchups that we're looking forward to. So I believe it's in Misfits' best interest to announce it as soon as tomorrow, maybe even later today.
Well, I'm going to pause you there, Ben. I think someone to ask and someone that will know the answer to it is obviously the mastermind himself, Misfits Boxing, Mams Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Misfits 13 was nothing short of eventful. There was a lot of twists and turns, the positives, the negatives. What were some of your overall general takeaways from what happened in Nashville?
You know, a lot of people were surprised that we stayed cool, calm, collected, and poised throughout. Things happen, and I think my general philosophy is if we do our best and things that are out of our control take place, there's no point stressing over it too much, right? Also, it's always an opportunity to learn how to be even better than trying your best, because now you're more equipped to be better for the next time because you have more information and knowledge. And that's what real L's are for. L's are for learning. Look, we got really, really good viewing figures because of it. We were trending everywhere for a good while. But at the end of the day, I'd rather they're talking about other things, the positive stuff that we do. For me, another takeaway was I made a statement on X saying it's going to be a lot higher standard for fighters to get on Misfits and, you know, kind of no more Mr. Nice Guy. I understand things get emotional after a fight, things can be said, and both Chris and Alexia apologized for saying what they did and everything else, but it's still no excuse. You're a professional, act like a professional. Obviously, it was out of our hand that some moron has called in and said there's a bomb threat here. One day that didn't go quite as planned out of 13 isn't too bad, so
absolutely,
it's all right.
I do want to touch on the one other big anecdote was obviously that main event. You just said it right there. There's going to be a different standard moving forward, maybe for who gets on these shows or is in those big positions. Can you walk us through maybe the sequence of events where you yourself became aware, oh, Most Wanted isn't coming out for this fight?
Well, yeah. First, let me tell you guys the reason for that main event. Let's remember this is a free-to-air show. It's a non-pay-per-view. And I saw it as an opportunity to continue to build Fox's rising star. Didn't want to take too much risk to overwhelm him with two guys that, you know, might beat him or he might not look good against or something. And I'm being really transparent saying that. I know, you know, a lot of promoters wouldn't speak that frankly, but that was the main reason for that fight. And also, Evil Hero had been DMing me for ages. I want to redeem that loss to Dean. I want to redeem that loss. Give me one more chance to be on Misfits. And then obviously, I thought it's kind of like a Cinderella story for him to get the opportunity to be on a main event from where he came from so quickly. Also, I made no bones about it. I was like, this is the Fox show. That's what it's about. But if you thwart it and you surprise everyone, then it's a different conversation. So go in there, do your absolute best. And most said to me, I'm going to win this fight. Watch, you know, obviously the 2-on-1 thing, it was a good idea in my head. The two that I chose for that particular 2-on-1 maybe wasn't such a good idea, but we learned from that. And what I am proud of is a bomb squad, a SWAT team, a police department. They couldn't stop Misfits from finishing their show. How it came about was someone said, hey, you better come to see Most Wanted. He's in the locker room and he's not coming out. I think Luke, his temporary coach, was saying that. Luke's a great guy, very above board, straight shooter. So I went over there and saw him. I was like, what's going on? He's like, I can't fight. And I was like trying to guide him with some breathing techniques and everything else. But he had completely made his mind up. There was no talking him out of it. There was no like, let's get a perspective on this. He'd made his mind up. And Luke had told me he had like some stomach issues. And then he said, look, I'm having a panic attack and an anxiety attack. When a fighter doesn't want to fight and just says clearly, I do not want to fight, I'm not going out there. It was Kalla's experience, being completely honest. Kalla came and said, Mams, stop. He's not fighting. That's it. And then we moved on to Mr. Evil Hero, who's like freaking out because he's like, this isn't what I signed up for. What the hell? I'm going to go in there on a one-on-one fight. I don't want to lose again. I have to redeem myself. I said, go out there and prove everybody wrong. And Kalla came again and said, hey, all right, it's up to you. Are you fighting or not? Just give us the decision. So he deliberated for a good few minutes and we came up to him. We're like, we have to cancel this if you're not going to do it. He's like, all right, I'll do it. And that was it. So, you know, obviously he got in there. I think he was already defeated before he got in there, but at least respect to him for making that walk and trying. And it wasn't our best main event for sure. I feel bad for Fox. I feel bad for a lot of people watching who were cheated out of that fight. But ultimately, Fox trained hard. He did what he came to do. And how differently it would have gone if there was two of them, I don't know.
Well, I mean, as you say, we learn from these experiences. These are what makes something more powerful and even better next time. But I want to shine light on something more positive and switch those gears a little bit. The tournament, it was extremely captivating. I mean, the level of opponents were fantastic. I want to get your thoughts on how this tournament is currently panning out at the moment.
Look, this tournament is absolutely, it's something I'm super excited about. Really, really personally, very excited. I think the winner is going to be a star. I think there's a couple of stars in that tournament already anyway, and I think they're really putting a stamp on that and letting you know that they're here. Joey Knight, he's got the gift of the gab. He's absolutely a pleasure to work with. And in the ring, he's demonstrating some really great skills. I'm very, very happy that he won Prime Knockout of the Night, and he was happier than I am because he was very grateful. He's like, mate, he gave me a hug. He was a bit intoxicated, celebrating as he should be. And he was like, mate, you've changed my life. And I swear that made everything worthwhile. You know, that made that night like it feel a lot better. And I was like, well, you know, Misfits really values you and we're really glad to have him on board. And he did a phenomenal job. Baby Hulk is no walk in the park. And Joey Knight just made short work of him. No pun intended there. Could have been a fight of the night contender potentially. Yudi Gang versus Lil Cray Cray. Really, really high level, I think. I'm excited to put that one on our next US event, not too far from now. Speaking of tournaments, the Cruiserweight tournament, some announcements coming up soon for that. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming.
Now, another guy on 13 that had a great performance was Taylor Holder. Nice comeback for him. And a gentleman watching right in the front row seemed to have a decent amount of things to say. Bryce Hall. That matchup is quite interesting. I know Hall's got Knucklemania coming up, but is that a matchup that you're going, man, we've got to make this happen ASAP?
I've spoken to them. They both say they want the fight to happen. So it's there if they want it. I don't know what the politics are to stop it from happening, but I've let them know that if they want that fight, I'll facilitate it. Taylor Holder, he had a slow start, which I knew he would. DWG of the Earth as well also surprised all of us. You know, he looked pretty damn good in there for someone who'd been boxing for 6 months or whatever, you know. So I encourage him to carry on because I think he's got some talent. So at some points, he was looking like a crafty pro. I thought Kalla said to me, I think he's a ringer. But yeah, he was impressive until a couple of tells and his cardio basically caught up with him. Taylor came in, and I think he just got better and better as it progressed. I think he had to shake off the cobwebs. He's only fought once. It was Taylor Holder, not against DWG of the Earth. It was Taylor Holder against the Bright Lights. The first round looked sketchy, but then he listened to the coaches. And I could hear them like they're all telling him, you've got to let your fucking hands go. Go now. And I saw his look. It connected. From that moment on, he started letting his hands go. 1 or 2 more fights after that, and he's going to be a real contender.
Potential Misfits announcement. When can the fans expect that? We constantly see it in the comments. Can you give the fans a little inkling when they can expect an announcement real soon?
Yes, I've been fighting to get these announcements done. I think this week we're finally going to get some announcements. So So some exciting stuff coming up, some really big fight cards, some fun ones. And as you'll see from this next card on May 11th, it's a lot more serious of a card. It's no nonsense, and it's just good old-fashioned scraps. So yeah, but this next card, I think in lieu of the craziness that happened over the last week or whatever, I think we focus on some gritty, hard fights that people are going to be interested in seeing.
Dean the Great, obviously there was a lot going on earlier over the last month or two, but feels like it's all reconciled. We've put that in the past, and Dean the Great and Misfits moving forward.
You know, he's like that naughty kid that you come back, you know, you leave him at the house on his own and you come back and it's like on fire. That's basically what it felt like. And it took him a while, I think, but I'll be honest. He came forward and he goes. He finally, like, I got a phone call from him. I think it was cool. We had a chat, and we'll get him back fighting soon again. He seems to be in a good headspace, and yeah, we move.
Another guy I'm curious about is Slim. Obviously undefeated, many knockouts in the scene, champion. What would you want to see next? Is there plans? Can we see Slim soon?
Yeah, I gave him a couple of offers. Unfortunately, the dates didn't work for him. He has a lot of siblings that get married, and you've got to respect that. And it was Ramadan, to be fair, as well. So one of the offers was during Ramadan, and so listen, we're in touch, and I can't wait to see him back in the ring. Very excited for what's next for him, and you never know what his next opponent, who his next opponent's going to be. I mean, I have an idea, but you guys don't. But it'll be fun.
Elle Brooks, she has been teasing a significant opponent for a long time now, and she's saying it's the toughest opponent to date. So what is going on here?
That knockout, listen, you get a knockout on Misfit as clean as that, going to get our attention. So all the big wigs are like, listen, she could really be something here. Like, let's start giving her some more attention, and the right attention that she deserves. She works really hard, but her opponent is signing a multi-fight deal with us too. So honestly, no favorites. Whoever wins that fight, I think it's going to be, they're going to have a beautiful road ahead for themselves.
Another fight that's being called is Kate Abdo. She's obviously got relations with Malik Scott. What is the truth behind this? Could Kate Abdo potentially make that move to Misfits Boxing?
Yes.
Last couple questions we've got for you. Fred Beck. He seems to be showing off a lot on the pads lately. In an interview with FoxTheG, he expressed some interest in facing Fred in the ring. The question is, can Fred get in there?
Don't know if I should give this away, but on the next card, Fred and Fox was talked about for about 24 hours, but it was very seriously considered by all parties. Ultimately, Fox has just had 2 camps and 2 back-to-back, and Fred is not in the best shape yet. You know, he's not sparred for a while consistently, and he hasn't boxed. He's got some experience, so I think it's a really fair fight, but I think Fred probably needs to catch up a little bit. I'd want it to be on the fairest kind of level for both of them, but I think it's one to watch for the future. But it's the closest I've got to making that fight, and if you're on Twitter Spaces when I've been on it, you know that I've tried to tout that fight for a long time. I think it could be a really fun one. So,
well, we got to hear from the main man himself, Mams Taylor, Misfits 13, in the rearview mirror. But BL, we got some nice announcements from the boss himself.
Well, it sounds like May 11th is a key date. Now, we keep giving these key dates, but this time round, I seem fairly confident that this is going to happen. And it seems to be a very serious fight. It looks like we look from the past, we're learning from it, and creating a really special event coming up.
Another kind of tease is Elle Brooks' next opponent has already locked in a multi-fight contract with Misfits. That tells me one thing. They're big.
Yeah, it must be a big name. I mean, it's really exciting. I have no idea who it could possibly be, but a name that does excite me, Fred Beck. It looks like he's getting in the ring finally. You know, I'm good friends with Fred Beck, so I'm really excited to see him get in the ring. I think he needs a few tune-up fights, and then we need to see the mega fight. Instead of Jake Paul versus KSI, Fred Beck versus FoxTheG.
What an exciting return it's been. Thank you for joining us today on Misfits News. Remember to stay tuned every Tuesday and Thursday as we bring you the latest updates from the world of combat sports right here on Misfits News. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.